The regular board meeting of August 16th, 2021 will come to order. Please, we'll take a roll call. Ms. Cotter.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter is here. Mr. Long,
Here, late but here.
you made it. Mr. Wiseman,
Here.
Mrs. Forrest,
Here.
Mrs. Dodd,
Here.
Mrs. Pastana,
Here.
Mr. Carlson,
Here.
all present. Thank you.
Thank you. Please rise if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I move that the Board of Education approves the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Weissman, seconded by Ms. Forrest. Any objections? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved as presented. Just want to do a mic check. Can people hear us okay? No, I don't know if there's a way to turn this up, but we'll try to speak loudly and see if we can't do something with the mic. Thank you for that feedback. All right, we'll get started here with board president comments. We've got a big night tonight. Thank you for those that have filled out citizen participation forms. If you're still working on that, please fill one out and get it up to Lori Hill as quick as possible. I appreciate that. Thank you. Couple of comments in regards to my comments this evening. Number one, I would like to thank our Huron Valley School Board as well as our members that took the time to come out and sit down with us last Tuesday at Kurtz. We started at, I believe, 6 o'clock and went to about 20 after 8. So I appreciate those community members. If you're out in the crowd this evening, thank you for stopping by and taking the opportunity to share your concerns. We also had a community connection forum also on Thursday at Spring Mills for the community as well. So we had about, in total, about 45 plus. We didn't take exact attendance, but with board member notes, we showed that about 45 individuals came out to share and express their concerns on varying matters. Also, I want to make sure that I communicate to our board members, since our last regular board meeting on July 12th, I've received 38 emails as of yesterday. There was a few more that came in today, so this is as of yesterday, from our community. As the board president and spokesperson of the board, I've responded to all of these emails, with the exception of, I think, 4 emails back in July where we were CC'd on the communication, and that was intended for state leaders. Of those 38 emails, 5 of the emails were requests to be part of the HVS Together Task Force, and I'll share a few comments on that. 2 of the emails were feedback on Summer Academy. 31 of the emails were regarding the topic of wearing masks or not wearing masks, of having choice. 18 of the 31 emails regarding parents that were expressing concerns and would like to see masks, especially with children that have not had the opportunity to be vaccinated. 13 of the emails regarded parents that would like to have the choice to mask their children. 4 of the emails, again, were from a CC perspective. I think that's important for us to make sure that you understand that your emails are coming in. We're doing our best to respond to those. So I wanted to make sure, I know one of the board members wanted to get an update on that. 1/3 of the emails came from five individuals that wrote multiple times over the past 5 weeks. I think it's important. I want to just share a little bit about the HVS Together Task Force. That is a task force, and give you an update. as opposed to waiting to the executive committee update. The HVS Together Task Force was about how do we bring the community back together? How do we work on, there's been a lot of learning loss that has taken place, not to the fault of the teachers, but the pandemic that has taken place. There's also been social and emotional needs that need to be addressed as a community. And then also, how do we reimagine our programming here in the district from a K through 12 perspective? How do we prepare our students as they go through? And it is our interest to have community members from the district, from each school building, 2 to 3 parents from each school building, perhaps a few more from the middle school and the high school because of the larger population. And then also teachers and administrators to be part of this task force. We're working through that. That will be run by a third party, independent third party that we've asked to come in and facilitate that conversation. We think that that is best. We will be working with our principals and our PTA presidents in regards to that application process. So I know that that has been a request by some of the members that may be out in the crowd here today or maybe back at home that have expressed an interest of being part of that. And so thank you for that expression of interest. Also, there's been a lot of conversation, and we don't officially have it on the agenda tonight, but I will make it part of my agenda by talking about masks. And so therefore, all the public comment requests will not be at the end of the agenda, which is non-agenda items, but we'll actually accept these public comments in regards to Section 7 tonight. I think what's important is I think predominantly, I think all the board members would agree that during the community connection forums, the predominant conversation was about masks, whether to wear them or whether to have choice to not wear them. And I just, I wrote up a couple pages here. I'm not going to read those couple pages, but I think I just want to express my sentiment in answering these questions as people sat down and talked with me, and what I shared with them, as well as the response in the emails. One of the emails that I received tonight, that I responded to, I think what I'm trying to do is just give you a sense from my perspective of how I've been responding to this. I'm writing to request, this is from a community member. I did not ask for their permission, so I'm not going to reveal who they are, but I am, good morning, HVS leaders. I'm writing to request mandatory masking in K through 12. I'm not going to waste your time with a long email, but I want you to know that support for masking exists in our district. While anti-maskers may be loud, there are many of us who want to stay safe and stay in school without masking. That's impossible. The CDC, the AAP, the Secretary of Education, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Oakland County Health Department, Beaumont Hospitals, U of M, and countless agree that masking is necessary. Why is HVS choosing to ignore the expertise of public health officials? I responded for an appreciation for sending the email to the Board of Education. And I commented that I assure you that we are not ignoring the expertise of public health officials. Huron Valley School District has been consistent since the beginning in our approach to dealing with this pandemic. The public health organizations like CDC, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and Oakland County Health organizations are public entities that we turn to in these unprecedented times. When they issue mandates and directives, we in turn have implemented those orders. When they recommend, we in turn try to mirror those language. Our lane as a school district is public education. Their lane is public health. We stand ready to implement health orders, but until then, we will continue to mirror the language regarding recommendations. Thank you for your response. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Service language plainly states that schools should require universal masking. Why aren't you mirroring that language? Which Michigan Department of Health and Human Services just came out on Friday afternoon. I said the Michigan Department, Sorry, I'm just finding my place here. Thank you for this reply, Mr. Carlson. Like you, I'm also, I responded to her, excuse me, that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services had the authority last year to require face masks, and they did with a face mask order. HVS followed the mandate of our public health officials. The question I have is, why are they doing it now? Why are they asking superintendents and school boards to require their districts when they have the vested authority to issue mandates and orders regarding public health? We rely on their guidance and orders and consistency in decision-making on public health. The inconsistency jeopardizes the credibility. We need our public health organizations who specialize in this area to be consistent in their decision-making and not pass critical public health decisions to school districts that do not have the legal authority to enforce. She appreciated this supply and was wondering why the state and county are deferring to local school districts, and acknowledged that it's strange and a frustrating choice. And she indicated, I would like to make sure I'm understanding your position that HVS does not have the legal authority to require masks without the state or county issuing a mandate. So that was the interface. I thought of all the emails that I received, there were different candidates that expressed the interest of this district in regards to us mandating masks. I also received an email in regards to those that would appreciate choice. And this email came from an individual that wanted to reach out and say thank you to the board for hosting the community forum at Spring Mills. They were unable to attend, but wanted to be there. Did appreciate and applaud the board members who were able to attend, and all board members attended either the Kurtz or the Spring Mills event. I'm grateful parent for those giving their time to talk with parents. If I could have attended, I would have asked a few questions. I would have encouraged the board stay strong with parental choice with masks this fall. So crucial and important, our district honors the choice. I personally love to encourage anyone around me to make the best decisions for their family instead of having others to do so. It's empowering, and one feels a sense of true community as we are all being heard. Choice is important. Secondly, I would have asked about the bond issue construction and so on, and also the upcoming millage. In regards to, and then there's a personal note in here in regards to their student that I'm not going to share, but what I wanted to share is, as a district, we have been from the beginning, this was my response to her, as a district, we have been from the beginning and remain committed to being consistent with our decision-making regarding health protocols and instructions. At this time, we have no mandates from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services or Oakland County Health Department. They are the public health organizations that are vested with the legal authority to make public health decisions for the state, county, and our community. They have the express authority to issue mandates, orders, directives, and recommendations as they see fit. They are the public health officials, and we are not. We rely on their guidance and professional expertise in the area of health. Our HVS language and direction in the school districts to parents has and will continue to mirror the language of the health organizations that are vested with this authority. At this time, the language of our governing health organizations are recommendations. They are not mandates. Recommendations, of course, can be interpreted as giving choice, but as a school district, we are just following the guidance as we have from the beginning of this pandemic. In both instances, there's been emails as well as personal conversations of, hey, we're praising you for what you did last year. Please stand up and do the same thing. We're also getting praise in regards to recent decisions. Hey, please continue to stay strong. But what I would say to you as the board president of this body, and I believe most of the members would agree with this, if not all, is that we've been consistent from the beginning. This is not a cop-out in regards to health. We are not health experts. The superintendent and the administration is not health experts. We expect that the public health organizations to give us the guidance, and we will take that guidance and mirror that. we believe in public safety of our children and of our students. So I just wanted to share both perspectives. Now, if you're out there, and I said this to the superintendent, we're striking a pose where it may look like, well, geez, they're not taking praise from anybody. It's just, in my opinion, that I'm trying to be sincere and genuine and authentic in saying we are following the rules. And if there are not mandates, then we will pass on those recommendations. I just wanted to share that. Now that I have made masking part of the agenda this evening, it will now move up to section 7 as a public comment. I would ask and welcome all the comments that we have. If there are any other forms, I would recommend that you get those in. Thank you very much. And now we'll move to recognitions. Ms. Root.
Per the decision of the board, we have suspended recognitions and highlights until the start of the school year. So our first recognition and highlight will be at the September meeting.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move to items from the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. First and foremost, I want to start off with something that relates to teaching and learning. We talk a lot about masks, but I think it's important to take a minute. We're a teaching and learning organization, and I just want to send my congratulations and my thank yous to Mr. Chiswick, as well as all of our teachers, our paraeducators, and all of our support staff that really stepped up to make the Summer Academy a tremendous success. We had 1,400 students that participated in summer school programming for about 8 weeks, which I think is just it's something to be celebrated. Our entire central office team spent 2 months at the end of the school year to prepare for the Summer Academy, and they just did a tremendous job pulling something off that we haven't had to that magnitude. So thank you to all of you out there that participated in the Summer Academy program. Also, Mr. President, I wanted to mention that on this evening's consent agenda for our Board of Education, there are 3 items that relate specifically to contracts that have recently been settled or a successor agreement that we're asking the board to approve. The successor agreements for the HVEA. While we wrap up negotiations, we are asking for a successor agreement through September 30th, which would allow steps and lanes to move forward. You received this information in your board packet, but I think it's important to highlight that. We also have the custodial group. I'm sorry, not the custodial group. We have the transportation group, as well as the secretarial group in there as well. We've been able to successfully negotiate those contracts. I thank our bargaining team. I feel like we've landed in a good spot. So I just want to highlight those 3 items. I have on the agenda as a formal item, non-homestead millage. All I want to do on this item, Mr. President, is just highlight for those of you in the listening audience, there's a document that's on the table outside when you walked in. If you didn't have an opportunity to grab this document, I would just encourage you to take that as we begin to spend more time moving forward towards November 2nd, when we ask for consideration of the non-homestead millage. We're going to start talking more about this topic and providing some education and information items. I just wanted to mention that for our listening audience, those of you who are watching at home, or for those of you that are in the audience, we are happy to answer any questions and provide any detail that you're looking for regarding that item. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge and mention the conversations that have been ongoing and the feedback and the emails that we've continued to receive regarding masking. As you can imagine, just like last year, there's a lot of strong opinions one way or the other regarding whether masks should be worn in schools and whether that should be mandated or not. I want you to know that we continue to listen to and observe the literature that is published. 90 days ago, we had a mask mandate in place. It was consistently applied across all domains, not one domain or another. Today, I sent a communication sharing with our community the strong recommendations that have been published by the CDC, as well as the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, because we want you to have that information as we have it. Also, I want to highlight, because this is an important fact that can be somewhat confusing, there is a federal order that requires masking on school transit, on public transit, including school buses. And we have asked for a legal opinion specifically regarding that matter. It is an order. And as a school district, we are bound to follow the law and will follow any orders. So I just want to point that out and ensure that everyone has that information as well. And then the communication also provides some details regarding other mitigation strategies, including, we will make our best efforts regarding social distancing. We have purchased air purification systems that have been deployed throughout all of our buildings. All of our buildings that are under construction are also receiving an update in terms of HVAC, in terms of new additions and that sort of thing. And we are continuing to study those components as well. So we will continue to monitor local conditions. We will continue to communicate with local health officials as we move forward. And that concludes my comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Salah. Okay, we will now move to item section 4, items from the board. Secretary, do we have any, Ms. Cotter, do we have any correspondence?
No, I have no correspondence to share tonight, other than the emails that were that everybody did get. We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, Ms. Pastana.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, Mr. Weissman.
Yes, just very quickly, I had the privilege to represent our Board of Education 2 weekends ago at the Summer Institute that was held by Michigan Association of School Boards. There's a number of pieces of information that's available to the board, and I'll provide that to Lori, and she'll pass that on to you. But it was my pleasure to represent the board at this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Long.
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Dodd.
No comment right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
You forgot about me.
Ms. Forrest. No, I didn't forget about you.
No comment.
All right. Student leadership. Any student leadership comments? I don't see any public comments in regards to student leadership. So we'll move to association comment. Ms. Hollander.
Good evening. It seems like not long ago that we were all together in June for the final board meeting of last year. The summer, as all summers do, went by way too fast. I hope you were all able to take some time to be with your family and friends to recharge for this year. At that board meeting, we all had high hopes that most of our COVID concerns would continue to decrease. But we know that unfortunately, that is not the case at the moment. You can't listen to the news or flip through social media without hearing and reading about the Delta variant and how it may impact our schools. It is important that we build on the conversations we had last year regarding health and safety for our students and educators while we continue to focus on teaching and learning. As we move forward into this school year, one of the lessons that we learned from last year was the importance of face-to-face conversations. I look forward to collaborating with Dr. Salah and Mr. Carlson as we work towards developing times throughout the year for our educators to be able to engage in dialogue face-to-face with Dr. Salah and members of the Board of Education. These meaningful conversations will allow all of us time to hear each other's concerns, celebrate the positive, increase our understanding of each other, and strengthen our shared goals. A second lesson that we learned from last year is that what we've always done in the past doesn't mean we have to continue doing it in the future. This past year has opened our eyes to many possibilities and has given us permission to rethink our past practices. Later this month, I'm excited to meet with some of our HVEA building representatives as we reimagine how our association can support our educators and discuss current needs of staff and students. Last year significantly impacted us all, and we are determined to learn from it and look towards this year with new ideas to put in place. And finally, another lesson learned came from the impact of the anxiety, isolation, and exhaustion we've all felt since March 2020. We learned that we need to intentionally make time for joy in our lives. Over the past 18 months, many of us have found that it is far too easy to focus on negative thinking, worry about things that are out of our control, and wonder what the future holds. Staying in the present, focusing on what is in our control, and positive connections with others helps to counteract those thoughts. So, by spring of last year, as I listened to our educators and witnessed their exhaustion firsthand, our HVEA Executive Board knew we needed to do something for our staff. Consequently, we've developed a new committee that is dedicated to brightening the lives of our educators and highlighting the incredible work that they do. This new committee is composed of very positive-minded educators and is now in place and ready to take on this new role. So as we begin this year, let's learn from the lessons of the past year, commit to reconnecting with each other, engaging in meaningful dialogue, and finding intentional moments of joy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will now move to public comment. I'm just going to read something here first, and then I'm going to call folks down. The microphone is down here in the front. I would ask whoever is speaking to make sure that they step up there, and then if you could space yourself out, and I'll probably call 3 to 4 individuals at a time. I'm going to call up the first 3 at this point in time. Joe Courtney. And I apologize. I hope I get people's names correct. I might look at the superintendent to help me out. Is there a Jordana Latozas? Thank you. And then I have a Kristen O from that lives on Woodcock Way. Okay. All right. And if we could just space those individuals out. I just want to, this is on your form, but I'm just going to read this. Thank you for attending our Board of Education meeting. We welcome your community input and comments. If you have a comment or concern, and you all did that in regards to a non-agenda item, I made it an agenda item, and that's why we moved it up. We understand that you're all busy, and this is an important comment, and we want to get right to it. The board president of the Board of Education has the ability, 5 minutes is generally what we allow for public comment. Given the number of responses here tonight, we're going to have a 3-minute schedule here. So thank you. And I think, Lori Hill, you'll be keeping track of that. Is that correct? We've got a timer up on the screen. So hopefully we will not be interrupting you at a minute, that you can see the time that's there. There's no buzz clock like a basketball game or anything like that.
No gong show?
No gong show. So we welcome your comments and thank you for being here tonight. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joe Courtney, and I'm here with my wife, Heather. Our 2 sons attend Heritage Elementary. First, I'd like to thank the school board for giving parents options last school year and the one coming up by creating the virtual academy and allowing parents the choice of sending their children back to in-person learning or stay at home if they believe that was the best interest of their family. Given the events that have transpired over the past 19 months and the fact that there was no handbook for this, I believe it was handled about as well as could be imagined. So thank you. Now that we're near the start of the 21-22 school year, I'd like to come back to a concept I highlighted a moment ago, choice. As it stands right now, the CDC, as you mentioned, as well as local health organizations and governmental ones, are not mandating masks in our schools. They are strongly encouraging, but not requiring them. I'm here today to follow the directive and strongly encourage you, the board, to stay with this line of thinking because it also allows choice for the parents who do not want their children to have masks. If you believe it is best for your child to attend school wearing a mask, please send them in one. After speaking with our 2 boys, my wife and I are confident that the best option for them is to not wear a mask after countless conversations regarding the subject. My oldest one is starting 5th grade. The last normal school year he had was when he was in 2nd. My youngest is in 3rd grade. The last normal school year he had was when he was in kindergarten. My wife and I have come to these decisions based on the fact that they are healthy, active boys with a large exposure to vitamin D, which also happen to be huge ways to combat the COVID virus. We've been told repeatedly to trust the science and follow the mask mandates. Per the CDC's website, here's some other science or facts as well. 4.2 million children have tested positive for COVID since 2019. Roughly 400 children have died, or 0.008%. In the 2018-2019 flu season, 480 children died from influenza, more than the COVID virus. In 2017 and 2018, 640 children died from influenza and over 11 million cases. There have been multiple reports of suicide attempts and suicide deaths rising because of the pandemic. In one study at Riley Hospital for Children in Indianapolis, the number of children and teens hospitalized after a suicide attempt went up from 67 in 2019 to 108 in 2020, a 62% increase. At no point in the time leading up to the COVID did we hear that we needed to wear masks to prevent the flu, a virus that in aggregate affects more kids and leads to more deaths than COVID. At no point did we hear a directive from any of our health departments or the school board to eat healthier, exercise more, drink more water, and get more sun, all things that will strengthen an individual's immune system. Instead, it was to wear a mask. Masks whose effectiveness is at best in question based on emails from the doctor who's been in the face of this pandemic. In closing, the CDC also stated that the risk of serious complications is higher for influenza compared with COVID-19. With all the science and these facts, I urge you for our children to keep masks voluntary. Anything else is protecting
Thank you,
yourself
Mr.
politically
Courtney.
and to make you feel better.
Please allow the other comments to take place. Thank you. All right, Jordana.
Hi, as a mother of 2 Huron Valley students, thank you for your decision to make masks optional for students in the upcoming 21-22 school year. Obtaining 100% approval on policies is impossible, both in education and healthcare. The Huron Valley stance on allowing the option of vaccines, the option of masks, and the option of virtual academy, I believe, is the best of both worlds. This allows for parents to make educated decisions based on their own family and their own child's physical and mental health. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've been working on the front lines of the pandemic since day one, providing COVID testing and vaccinations. I've treated many COVID cases and symptoms, but I continue to maintain that healthcare decisions are immensely personal and they need to be left up to the individual. Mandating vaccines and face masks violates personal choice, and attempting to force personal health decisions is never acceptable, and it's always has negative ramifications. Masks are not mandated in the state or in the country for that matter, and you can take your kids to any building and event without masks. So why the push for schools only? It's absurd. It's like trying to lose weight but eating fast food every single day except for Sunday. It won't work. It's ineffective. Will masking in schools change the progression of the pandemic? No, it did not change the progression last time, and it's not going to change the progression now. Cloth masks have not been proven effective against COVID-19 droplets. In fact, the CDC does indicate that they're ineffective against small particles. They only block the large ones. So if somebody sneezes in your face, it's going to decrease the large droplets, but the small ones are going to go right through. There's only really been one masking study that's been done, and it's all been about particle size, and it was done in a laboratory. It's not been done in a real world scenario. But all of the meta-analysis that were done on current studies do indicate a recommendation for people who are exposed or who are having symptoms or working around the infected, like in a healthcare setting. Prior to the pandemic, masks were frequently used in hospital settings. Healthcare protocols were there to protect the sick and the very contagious. Ultimately, I'm going to cut my thing short because it was 5 minutes. Healthcare education really focused around hand washing. washing your hands frequently, washing your hands with every single patient, washing your hands before you put on gloves, after you take off gloves, changing your mask with every patient, every encounter, every touch. I've been counting 52 times up here, guys. You touched your masks, hold it down under your nose. And that's been in 20 minutes. Ineffective masking is ineffective, and it won't work with kids. It won't work with adults.
All right, thank you, Jordana. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for keeping healthcare decisions in healthcare and education decisions in education.
Thank you. Kristen, before you get started, Kristen, I'd just like to call the next three down. Jessica Mathaik, Jacqueline Natchneck, and Andrea Graber. Again, I apologize if I'm not getting your last name right. Did those three individuals? Yes, there we go. Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
I was raised in this community and I'm choosing to raise my children here. I am the daughter of a Huron Valley Schools teacher. I am the granddaughter of 2 teachers from the local community, and I have at least 5 extremely good friends who are teachers here. I vote yes on every millage. I'm a huge supporter of the school system, and I will continue to be in the future. I chose to do Huron Valley Virtual Academy for my son last year for his kindergarten. We had a really good experience. When we had to make the decision in April to choose face-to-face or virtual academy, things were looking pretty good. And I made the decision to switch to face-to-face based on trust. My trust in this district, in this superintendent, and in this board to do what is right, even if it's not popular, and to make the choices to keep our children safe. I maintained that trust as the recommendations came down from the CDC. I maintained that trust when it came down from the AAP. And I maintained that trust when it came down from the MDHHS. When those recommendations were published and a mask mandate still didn't come down, that's when I decided to be in the vast minority, because the largely supportive parents like me, my friends, my colleagues, the other parents that I spend time with feel the way that I do, that masking works, that following the recommendations of major health organizations is important, and that this is what we want. Until a pediatric vaccine is available against this virus, there need to be masks. I can speak to you as a registered nurse who has physically restrained people while they were forcibly intubated because of respiratory distress, that any choice that you make that might prevent that from happening to one single person is a choice that's worth making. We're not only talking about children and the transmissibility and deadliness among children, we're talking about an entire community. I know that there's a lot of talk about choice, but what matters to me and what matters to my family and what I'm teaching my children is responsibility. So when my child goes to school with a mask, regardless of what the mandate is, I know and he knows that he is protecting other people with his choice. And I'm protecting other people's children with my choice. As an RN and as a mother in this community, I implore you to be proactive rather than reactive and take care of our children. Require masks until we have an opportunity to vaccinate these kids. I am not alone in this opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Jessica.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Mathiak, and I am a parent to 2 little boys in Huron Valley Schools. I'm also a master's prepared registered nurse working in emergency and trauma. I come before you guys today seeking clarification and wanting to share clarification. In no way, shape, or form do I wish to take away anything from a parent that supports masking their children. I firmly believe it's their right to make decisions for their own children. And while I may not agree, I will never advocate for their personal rights to be taken away. That is where a significant misnomer lies. Any anti-mandate is not anti-mask.
For those of us who support individual choice, we are completely perplexed at the audacity of others believing that they have the right to make health decisions for our children. Please stop discrediting our ability to research and think for ourselves. Please give us the same respect to parent and evaluate the individual needs of our own children. And please also do not negate the importance and preparedness of the additional mitigation strategies that HVS leadership has put into place. And please do not continue to minimize the concerns that we parents have that masks can do harm. COVID-19 is not the only subject that we need to be concerned about. According to Dr. Macri from Johns Hopkins University, the possible psychological harm of widespread masking is an even greater worry. There have been no long-term studies on masking. The NIH has not spent a single dollar of their $42 billion budget on studying the implications of masking children. Literacy specialists and speech pathologists have brought forth data concerning negative impacts of mask wearing. We also do not have a single study proving that COVID transmission was decreased in schools from universal mask wearing. In fact, the data that we do have on masking children does not support the strict and overreactive recommendations of the CDC or the AAP. At best, it's simply CYA. Continuing with data, a North Carolina study of 90,000 students and found not a single case of transmission that was sent from a student to a teacher. Not one. I'm going to have to make this quick here because I got 2 minutes shy. The opposition often proclaim the Delta variant is the reason why we should be concerned. Just so that the public is aware, the Delta variants are not tested in the hospital setting. Those are actually sent as a random blind sample to the state of Michigan.
Please allow her to speak. Please, we've got a lot of comments here.
And that we don't actually know at the hospital. So we have no idea who has what within the community. So it's a lot of alarming, a lot of buzzwords like surging and things like that are completely unnecessary and virtue signaling. And we really need to stop sending that message to our community. Lastly, I want to say that given the majority of hospitals remaining in the single digits, we need to continue to look at the current data in our community, in which I'm very appreciative of this board doing and recognizing that through the leadership team at Huron Valley. If for some reason, though, that we have a change that's not mandated through law, we have over 50 parents that are willing to walk away from Huron Valley schools, and we don't want to have to go there.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Jacqueline?
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Macknack, and I have 2 children. And I forgive you for butchering my name. I married into it, so it's okay. I have 2 children that I hope that they'll come back to Huron Valley next year. My soon-to-be 5th grader just cried to me last night, and I get emotional talking about it. He was begging me to go back to the school that he loves so much for his last year of elementary. My heart breaks that I can't feel confident in making the decision to send my children back to Huron Valley schools, a school system that I personally attended from kindergarten at Lakewood Elementary through my graduation at Lakeland High School. I stand here tonight to ask you, the board, that you stick with your plans that you have boldly made for this upcoming school year and do not let politics or fear play into your decision making so our kids can have a normal school year and get back to learning. I spoke with a few of you at the community forum and learned that the close contact quarantine of hundreds of kids last year was not warranted by the numbers, and the summer academy was a success with 0 cases. My children attended a private school last year, 5 days, face-to-face, with no interruptions to learning the entire year. It can be done. The current plan gives everyone a choice, and we should all be grateful for that choice. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Before Andrea speaks, I'd like to call Shayna Levin, Mindy McNamara, Maggie Sitar, and Sherry Masson down. Thank you. Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andrea Graber. I have 2 children in the district. I did not plan on speaking tonight, but then I realized that my silence is letting you know that I'm okay with what is happening, and I'm not okay with it, not at all. I understand that there are parents out there who are scared to send their children to school without a mask. Well, guess what? You are being given a choice. All that I'm asking is that you give me a choice as well. My children suffered horribly last year from having to wear a mask at school. My daughter has seasonal allergies and is prone to migraines. She missed a month of school because she was not able to wear a mask at times because of this. My son threw up on the bus from motion sickness with his mask on. He was traumatized from this experience and struggled with anxiety for months after this. If your child does not suffer from anxiety from having to wear a mask, lucky you. It's not a one size fits all, you guys. What works for you and your children may not work for my family. So many people have lost empathy or are showing that they never had it. It truly breaks my heart. I want to thank the school board for sticking to your word, for giving us the right to decide if our children should wear a mask or not. I hope that if the state or health department tries to mandate them, that you will fight this. We will be here to support you in that fight. We do not want to pull our kids from the district. That's why we are here. But if there is a mandate, we will be left with no other choice. We will not put our children through this daily torture ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Shayna Levin.
There's no short setting on this microphone. All right. Good evening. My name is Shayna Levin. My family and I are new to HVS through School of Choice. I'm speaking to you tonight to talk about that word, choice. Prior to COVID, I was about as involved as a parent could be in my kids' school. I was a PTA president, a district council vice president. I was a fundraiser and a cheerleader. Heck, I even dressed up as the school mascot one time. When the world turned upside down 16 months ago, I became involved in my kids' education in a whole new way. Being together 24/7, I started to learn more about them as students. I learned about how they learned. I learned about how they were being taught, and I learned that there were some things that I maybe wasn't happy with when it came to their learning and their progress. My husband and I decided it might be time to make some choices about our kids' education. The choice we made for this past school year was to homeschool our kids. Not virtual learning at home, actual withdraw from the district homeschool. Although we enjoyed the extra time with our kids and our kids learned a lot, and we had some fun learning along with them and being creative with our lessons, we realized that school at home just wasn't what our kids wanted. Mom and dad being principal and teacher just isn't cool when you're 11. So we started considering other options, other choices for this school year. We could go back to our home district. We could look at private school. We could move, or we could consider the neighboring public school district, Huron Valley. I started paying attention to HVS communication and watching your board meetings. I was impressed with Dr. Salah's communication and straightforward approach during these meetings. We toured Oak Valley Middle School, and we enjoyed speaking with Brett Myers and Wendy Nellis. We decided that we would take a leap of faith and apply for School of Choice to make Huron Valley our new home. We were excited when we received our School of Choice acceptance letters, and our kids are excited to start a new school year in a new school. I'm addressing you tonight because I am afraid this board and administration are going to change directions, and my family will be faced with another choice. You see, the fact that we have choices in life is what makes us uniquely American. We can choose what we say, we can choose what we wear. In Oakland County, we can choose where we send our kids to school, and we can choose whether or not we want to cover our children's faces with a mask. I am pro all of these choices. I won't tell anyone what to say or what to wear or how to raise their kids, and I don't want anyone telling me how to raise mine. I want to retain my parental choice, and I want everyone to be able to do the same. So board members and administrators, if you were planning tonight to bring to a vote a mask mandate or any other type of restriction for the 21-22 school year, I ask that you reconsider your position before it's too late. There are many choices that have led me to being here tonight. Please don't force my kids to wear a mask. Don't force me to make another choice and remove our money and our kids from HVS before they've even had a chance to start. There is not a one-size-fits-all approach to anything in life, certainly not education or parenting, and there cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach to this upcoming school year. Thank you in advance for making the choice to do the right thing, and thank you for leaving the choice to mask kids up to their parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Shayna. Mindy McNamara. Before Mindy speaks, I just want to make sure it's clear. There is no agenda item on the board that we are discussing this evening for a vote. I know that was suggested in the last comment, but I think that's important to point out that that is not on the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Mindy McNamara, and I did not plan to speak tonight, so I just threw something little together on my phone really quick. I was just going to send you guys an email and let you know what my decision was, but I felt like I needed to publicly say what my decision was. I'm not here to speak on any of the statistics tonight, as many parents here have already done a great job at that.
My stance is parental choice, and I'll leave it at that. I'm simply here to let you know that you've lost my trust, and that to do the right thing for our children. And I have made the decision to pull my child from the school district. Many of you may not know myself or my family, but you could ask any of the other principals from elementary to middle school to high school. They know our family. Our family has been a very active, involved member of the community. I've had 2 other children graduate from Milford High School. My child is an incoming sophomore, and I just don't want to take that chance this year that you guys once again will reverse course, and mid-year I'm stuck with making some hard choices. So this summer I decided that I was going to start looking for another school district, and we have found one. 95% of the kids did not wear a mask there last year. They could sign a waiver. The other 5% that did, that was their choice. And they didn't shut down the school. They had, I think she said 2 people had COVID the entire year. So I just wanted to let the board know, not to toot my own horn, but you guys have lost a great family. And you can ask any of the principals, any of the teachers, they know us. And I'm sure that they would concur that. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mindy. Maggie? Oh, I don't see Maggie up there. Oh, Maggie's.
I'm sorry.
You'll be next, Sherry.
I did not plan to speak, so I was not as prepared as many with the great stats, but there's 3 things I wanted to cover. 1, I am very grateful for your summer academy. The time, the energy was amazing, and the feedback from my kids was unexpected. I thought for sure in their years they would be completely appalled at the idea. They were thrilled. Absolutely, completely, to every extent. Now, was it a full day? No, but it was a mix of what they love and needed more than I ever imagined. The second part of what I wanted to cover is that when you were talking about public transportation, I'm a little confused because when I looked it up, it said buses, trains, subways, and other forms of transportation that charge a set fare run on fixed routes and are available to the public. If that's the case and they're required to wear a mask, then why is the bus that goes by my street not picking up my children just because I'm going to Country Oaks as school of choice? If it's public transportation, wouldn't it pick up my child? Because I go to a public school?
Yeah, there's no responding and back and forth.
It was just a question.
But we will take your question.
Okay. Yeah, you can write it down and
yeah,
save
we're gonna
it
write it
because
down.
I can't find the answer.
All right, and we'll get back to you for certain.
Perfect. And then one little side note, we go to a homeopathic doctor, and for the time that we spend with her and over the years, we've trusted everything that she's given us. I won't go into big detail, but we did have our children's blood work done last year. We have it done every year. And our doctor said she was stressed at 7 years old. She was stressed and could see that from her blood work. And what we realized is we needed to turn off the TV. We needed to go outside and do activities that would bring her joy and find out what she needed most, because as parents, we had no idea that she was that stressed. She never came across angry or anything unlike herself. It was her blood work that gave us that result. And we're really thankful for that, but I know that most people never. So that was an awareness for us to really change some things that we needed to do. And lastly, just out of respect, I don't know you all. I don't know you personally. And by sitting in the seat that I was sitting, if you had a mask on, I had no idea you were speaking because I couldn't see your mouth, your mouth. And that is important to realize for our kids. I know we only have usually one teacher in the classroom. It's hard to learn as it is, but it's extremely hard to learn behind a piece of paper. And that's what we're wearing. And that is not good for my kids.
Thank you, Maggie. And we'll get back in touch in regards to your question. Sherry.
So I have been waiting to weigh in on this debate because I don't have a child in Huron Valley Schools at the moment. But after hearing and reading so much about the emotions and seeing how it has divided our community and having a lot of sympathy for those who have to take all of this and make a decision about it, I thought I'd jump into the fray with a memory of my teaching days at Brooks Elementary when I taught 5th grade almost 15 years ago. I remember thinking one of the biggest responsibilities of teaching, and the one that weighed heavily, was to keep the kids safe. And this was no small thing. Many of my students spent more hours with me each week than they did their own parents due to the difficult work schedules. They needed some consistency, an environment that made them feel welcome and valued so they could learn. From time to time, offering them educational opportunities to help them grow intellectually and keeping them safe would kind of come into conflict. For example, my teaching partner and I believed our classroom needed to go beyond the walls of the school building in order for kids to see the connection between what we taught them in the classroom and real life. But to take them on a field trip to Detroit Institute of Art to write about art for a week, or at camp in the spring, we need to take risks with their safety. Each time we decided to do something that involved going out of our comfort zone, we sat down and we did a risk assessment. We would balance the potential danger against the value of the experience. And if we decided on the riskier choice, we'd spend time making arrangements and safety precautions, and we would put in place in order to give our kids the experience they deserved and at the same time keep them safe. Over the 10 or 15 years we did camp, we had our share of minor injuries, indigestion, homesickness, but we never regretted the decision. In the middle of a pandemic with numbers of younger cases going up, I see going back to in-person school a big risk. But now that we know more about it, how to do it, and we know vaccines and masks are effective in warding off the worst cases of COVID, I believe it's a risk worth taking. And I have an unvaccinated granddaughter. But this child desperately needs to be in school and to learn with other kids. In her district, Royal Oak, they've decided to mandate masks, and they have a system of contact tracing. I'm grateful they made this decision because in balance, they did what we had to do when we decided to take the risk of going to camp. The benefits and the opportunities were just too wonderful to give up, like face-to-face learning. But to do it without any special rules and expectations from the kids and the parents, we would have been putting our 5th graders in harm's way. I believe that everyone agrees we want to go back to in-person learning.
Thank you, Sherry. Hey, I'm running the meeting. Thank you. If you'd like to run for this position, it's open and in 2022. So,
and let's keep it sustainable.
All right. Thank you, Sherry. All right. Ryan Dolly, Jeff Granger, Amber Waller, and Heather. She lives on Grodenwood Lane. I'm not going to attempt the name. I apologize, but all right, Ryan.
You know, last time I was in this auditorium, I was taking the lead role in The Crucible. And I think I'm going to get a little bit less applause tonight, but that's okay. So my name is Ryan Dolly. I'm a lifetime resident of this area. Lindsay Cotter was actually my kindergarten teacher at Baker Elementary in 1988. And my daughter Freya is starting kindergarten at Heritage this fall. The receding of this virus had me very confident coming into this school year, but unfortunately the emergence of the Delta variant and the decision to take a reactive rather than a proactive approach to start the school year with virtually no mitigation strategies gives me great pause. I understand that the successful summer school program and Oakland County's 70% vaccination rate give you some degree of confidence in this decision. I do not share this confidence, and I ask you to consider the following. First, while Oakland County does indeed have a 70% vaccination rate, an independent analysis of census tracts by Bridge Magazine from the middle of June shows clearly that this number is driven largely by extremely high vaccine acceptance in wealthy suburbs like Novi, Royal Oak, Birmingham, and West Bloomfield. These communities are above 90% or more for vaccine acceptance. The communities that make up Huron Valley are much lower. For example, the tracts that make up Highland are between 46.3 and 37.7% fully vaccinated. In addition, the Oakland County COVID-19 map was updated just today to show that the Highland zip code 48356 has the highest current case rate in all of Oakland County. These are not Birmingham numbers, you guys. These are Florida numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Jeff.
I wasn't done. I was just thanking the applause from the cheap seats. I would like to make something abundantly clear here. Like many members of our community, I do not wish my daughter to start her time at Heritage wearing a mask. But even more than that, I want her in the classroom, learning from her teachers and peers every day, not attending a remote session via Zoom. I am here today to ask you to be proactive again, to promote the one thing our entire community can agree on, and that is the vital necessity of in-person learning. In-person schooling for the entire fall can only be secured by reinstigating the mitigation procedures from last year, like mandatory masking. Without this, given the information that I just shared with you and what we know about the virus, it's impossible to avoid remote learning for large portions of the year. This is an outcome that nobody pro or anti-mask wants. But if there's uncontrolled transmission of COVID-19 in our community, it is a decision you on the board will be forced to make. So let's do what we can to prevent that.
Thank you, Ryan. Jeff.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Granger. I live in White Lake and I have two daughters, one starting middle school and the other one's a fourth grader at Oxbow. I'd like to start off with some info from U.S. News and World Report. The U.S. ranking among other countries in education for 2021. So the U.S. is 15th in reading. We're 31st in math and 23rd in science. So I wanted to bring these up because the point is that the most developed nation in the world should be among the top 10 in these categories. The board meetings should be focused on providing the best education as possible, as much as the money in this district allows. We shouldn't be focused on perpetual discussions on upcoming mandates or lockdowns. On top of that, I'm saddened to hear trends around the country abolishing testing or grading standards. I hope that doesn't happen in this district. We need to hold these kids accountable to prepare them for what to expect in their adult life. We're now 1.5 years into this virus being widespread in the US. Vaccines are widely available. We've all had COVID or had the vaccine or been offered the vaccine. I ask you that if masks are not optional now, then will they ever be? Let's be real. If I've learned anything from the past 1.5 years, it's that we can't stop this virus with masks. The only masks that are effective are N95 masks. This virus is here to stay, and we refuse to permanently live under a health order dictatorship. Health decisions should be up to us parents. The parents that feel differently have options. They can choose to send their kids with masks. They can choose the HVS Virtual Academy. I'm all for providing options to accommodate those at risk. However, we will not allow any more abuse to our children. Contrary to the message from our health agencies, children are not at any more risk from COVID than seasonal flu. Children should not be forced to wear sweaty, dirty rags over their face for hours every day. Why doesn't the health agencies ever talk about staying healthy or preventative techniques like taking enough vitamin D? We will make our own health choices. We will not accept the CDC, MDHHS, or Oakland County Health Department anti-science mandates and instead choose health freedom. Their job is to inform the public on health matters. Instead, these unelected bureaucrats are drunk on their own power. Lastly, do not even talk about forced testing, forced quarantine, or forced vaccines.
Thank you, Jeff. Amber? Amber? Heather is next.
Hi, my name is Amber, and I am the parent to two Huron Valley students, my fourth grader Caleb, who's here with me, and my kindergartner, who is so incredibly thrilled to start school this year. We made the really difficult decision last year to pull our kids from the school and decided to homeschool them. We knew it was going to be very difficult for them to be back and forth, and we knew with everything going on, there would probably be lots of different changes. So we had them home, and it was fun to have them at home. It was stressful at times. It was hard. We enjoyed that time with them, but both kids are really excited to go back to school and be with their friends and be excited. So I am just urging you to please allow our students to have a normal year this year, to be able to choose if they would like to mask or not mask, and allow them just to have a great school year along with their friends and with their teachers and getting to learn in a face-to-face environment. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear our comments and praying for a wonderful year this year.
Thank you, Amber.
I would like to be able to choose to wear a mask.
Before you speak, Heather, if I could just get the next three. Stacy Schwalbach, Michelle Masal, and Matt Wilson. And Autumn Frazier. Go ahead, Heather. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Heather Remtema. I live in the district. My husband and I have 3 kids that attend Huron Valley schools. I do want to express my support for anyone who wants to wear a mask and to send their child to school in a mask. And I also want to show support for those who've made the decision not to mask. It's important that our children feel comfortable in their learning environments. And just like kids that have to accept their peers and teachers for how they look and what they wear, they should have to respect their peers with regard to whether or not they wear a mask. Kids that make fun of other kids for not wearing a mask or vice versa are bullies and should be disciplined as such. I'm grateful to the school district, honestly, for giving the option, beginning with last year, to make the choice to enroll our children into the virtual academy. For those individuals that prioritize masking for themselves and their children, coupled with the fear of being exposed to the unmasked, the virtual academy is a great opportunity to take advantage of. If it is inconvenient for those parents to have their kids in their home for school, I understand. However, my kids and school staff should not have to be inconvenienced to mitigate the fear of others. If we require masks at this stage, where does it end? What is our goalpost? Is it until we make it to the Omega variant? This virus will continue to mutate. Do we change mitigation strategies each time? Do we wait until we have developed booster shots that will defend us against the whole Greek alphabet? Or do we learn to live with this virus as our new normal and ask each one of us to take personal responsibility for managing it? I implore you, mandate or not is not a law. I implore you to give our children and Huron Valley staff a choice to mask, a choice to vaccinate, a choice to quarantine, and a choice to test. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Stacy.
Hello, my name is Stacy Schlabach. I have a daughter that attends Milford High School. I want to thank the staff and teachers for educating our children. I also like to thank the board for hosting the community connection forums. I believe that every family should be able to choose if masking is appropriate for their specific families. I hope and pray that Huron Valley School District allows parental choice when it comes to masking our children. During the summer academy, there were 1,400 students and teachers combined with no mask mandate in 0 cases. I have read several studies showing that masks have harmful psychological and physiological effects on children. According to Dr. Lee Merritt, masks do not work for contagion control, and children learn by looking at facial expressions. For this reason, I believe this must be a personal parental choice. As an advocate for my child, I must stand up for my child. By masking my child, this goes directly against my personal beliefs. As a parent in this district, I believe we need to be respectful of each other and the choices that we each individually make for our own families. Masks can become very contaminated very quickly and actually lead to infection. Coronaviruses are less than 0.125 microns in size. Masks and respirators filter particles 0.30 to 0.80 microns in size. According to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, there are no studies that show a benefit from a broad policy to wear masks in public. In closing, there are no evidence-based studies that have shown that masks stop the spread of coronavirus. They cause more harm than benefit to the child, as I have outlined above. Therefore, I believe parental choice is imperative. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Michelle and Charles Massal. Oh, Matt, you're next on deck.
Oh, yeah. Good evening. My name is Michelle Massal, and unfortunately or fortunately, this is the first school board meeting I've ever attended. We are simply concerned citizens living in the district. Our son graduated from Brighton High School, and I am very alarmed on what's going on in today's world with regards to curriculum, critical race theory, and what's being taught from history perspective. So I would like to understand from the district what the policy is with regards to critical race theory. I want to ensure it's not being taught in this district. If it is being taught in this district, I would like to promise you that I will be running for a spot next time, first time ever. So the other piece, one of the other mothers alluded to, school transportation is not a federal form of transportation. Educating children is the responsibility of the state, not the federal government. So I don't understand why this district is following a policy from the federal government that should not apply. So if you could get back to me on those things, that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson.
Hi, my name is Matt Wilson, and I'm the father of 4 children in this district. I'd like to run through some important statistics, and hopefully I don't jumble them up. So according to the Oakland County COVID reporting, we've had a total of 2,321 deaths due to COVID. The population of around 1.25 million, that means we have a 0.18% of the population that died due to COVID. Of those 2,300 deaths, 89% of those deaths were 60 years or older. 0 deaths under the age of 20 were attributed to COVID. That's according to Oakland County. Now let's compare this to one of the worst affected areas, New York City. According to New York City's government's reporting, they've had a total of 33,661 deaths due to COVID. Population of around 8.8 million. That means a 0.38% of their population died to COVID. Of those deaths, 90% of those deaths were 55 years or older. In terms of recording deaths, New York City categorizes underlying illnesses or not, which helps understand what happened. These underlying illnesses can include lung disease, asthma, heart disease, a weakened immune system, obesity, diabetes, kidney disease, liver disease, and cancer. At least 70% of all COVID deaths in New York City had an underlying illness. Less than 0.5% had no underlying illness. And just a side note, we had a total of 5 cases of the flu for the entire 2020-2021 flu season. This was reported by MDHHS, 5 cases for the entire state of Michigan. Given all these statistics, just how deadly and infectious is this really? Why are we spending so much time, taxpayer money, setting policy and guidelines that they don't really add up to the numbers that we're seeing? Additionally, I am submitting to the board 47 studies on face mask ineffectiveness and 32 studies on the negative impacts of face masks. Please make the right decisions in the future, and may God bless you all.
Thank you, Matt. Autumn, before you speak, let me just line up the next few individuals. Brandy, I think it's Daniels, or is it David's? At 3750 Brookfield. Annabelle Thompson, Linda Murphy, and Rachel Janopoulos. Go ahead, Autumn. Thank you for your patience.
Good evening. My name is Autumn Frazier. I am a current elementary school teacher in Huron Valley. I live in White Lake and our youngest daughter attends school here. I will be beginning my 15th year of teaching this September. I have taught the bulk of my career in grades, kindergarten through second. It has been a very tough 17 months for our students, families, employees, and stakeholders in this district, actually the country. I am here tonight to extend my thanks to Dr. Skla and the entire school board for making the decision right now that masks are on the voluntary basis. Local community decisions making is always better than larger bodies controlling what is going on in a direct area or region. Almost 18 months ago at the beginning, I get it, nobody knew what was going on. Information was fluidly changing at a rapid pace and a jumbled mess of misinformation mixed in with some facts. Remember 14 days to slow the spread? Well, now we are in month 17, but we know a lot more. We have 3 different vaccines. We know the age groups that are most affected. We know about the core morbidity factors. We have therapeutic options that we didn't have before March. We have been told many different things over the past 17 months. A lot of this is questioning the integrity and science, if will be, of these governing institutions that have seemingly a lot of power and control over us. I am a very pro-democracy and freedom for all type of person. I do not believe that things should be mandated, especially when it comes to our own children. We have waivers for vaccines in the state of Michigan. We have school of choice in many districts. We have choices. This is healthy. HVS has done a marvelous job when they created the HVVA Virtual Academy to try to solve a problem. They made it clear that if you did not feel comfortable with sending your child to the face-to-face setting, that your child could learn virtually. They gave this opportunity for staff too. They have continued to offer these options for families and all staff. This is wonderful. I really hope any staff member that is not comfortable with coming back to the face-to-face setting have chosen to teach in the virtual academy this fall. The problem I saw last year being a teacher at my building and other buildings across the board was many staff members were feeling unsafe, but had the option to teach virtually, but dismissed it. We have many teachers in the virtual academy that were forced to teach in it that wanted to be in the face-to-face setting. If people are truly feeling unsafe, then why would they return to the face-to-face setting? HVS has given them the opportunity to still teach and feel safe. Masks are not healthy and are not proven to stop the spread. In a recent August 8th Wall Street Journal article, there has been one study done in the USA. One. Why? The results of the study were inconclusive, but I question why. Why has there only been one study done on children? This needs to be noted. I know I'm running out of time. I would also like to remind people that mental health is a huge thing right now with our young generation. During April to October 2020 in the USA, ER visits linked to mental health problems for children ages 5 to 11 increased nearly 25% and 31% for ages 12 to 17. The study basically concluded that it was the response to the pandemic, or should I say lack of. I can remind you, it was the
Thank you.
CDC, NIH, the governors, the health
Thank you,
departments,
Autumn.
and school district board that did not ask these questions.
Thank you, Autumn.
Hello.
Hi, Brandy.
I'm here today to continue to support all families and their right to a choice. Choice is something that's very important. It has been 18 months and we now have plenty of data. And data shows that the way we've done our children has been wrong. In June at the meeting, I said that we needed a strong statement of intent for the fall. And we have now gotten a statement that you will give us choice. And I hope that you stick with that choice. The accumulating evidence is that these protocols were more harmful than helpful. I also I'm not going to read all of it because we went over a lot of those things, but something that's very important to me right now is the fact that we as parents, community members, educators, and administration, no matter virtual or face-to-face, no matter political party, no matter race or gender or mask or non-mask, we need to be united. This is the United States of America. We need to have freedom of choice. We need to respect one another's choices and decision. I can tell you, this entire group is supportive of people who feel necessary to wear a mask. We also feel very supportive of one another that we should have the choice to not mask our children or ourselves. But I really want to see the community be united. There's no one size fits all. We are in a world that is hurting, and we need to lift one another up. We need to link arms and support every family and their right to choose what is right for them. I am incredibly proud of all the moms, dads, kids, community members, teachers, especially the teachers who have been so supportive in the face of such opposition to a parent's right to choose what is best for their family. I would hope that we would support our teachers immensely. This is not an easy situation for them. They deal with opposition in a lot of places, and I hope they tend to be more protected. And I want to implore all members of the community to be united for our children. For our children. It's not a pro-mask, anti-mask. It's not pro-choice, anti-choice. We are here because we love our children and our community. And we need to show that respect for our children, to see us respecting one another as human beings and our rights in America. We have to set this example. This hatred and division and all that in the community is awful, and it's putrid, and it has to stop. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Annabelle Thompson, thank you.
Hi, my name is Annabelle Thompson, and I will be a 7th grader at Oak Valley Middle School. Last year in 6th grade, I had an awful year because I was forced to wear a mask. I miss seeing people smile and being a normal kid at school. Kids have a 99.98% chance of survival, and the flu is more dangerous than COVID for kids. I think wearing a mask should be a choice. If you are scared of COVID, you can wear a mask. There is a vaccine that you can get too. If you are still scared, you have the option to register for the HVVA. When I wear a mask all day, I get headaches and my stomach hurts. I get sleepy when I wear a mask because it is hard to breathe, and then I have a hard time learning. When I had to wear a mask in gym, I couldn't breathe and I felt like I was going to pass out, and that was really scary. My mask collects bacteria all day that I breathe. The U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights still applies, and I have rights, even as a kid. Mask wearing should be a choice. I respect those who want to wear a mask and would never tell them to take their mask off, and I should be respected because I feel safe without a mask. I choose what is right for my body, not someone else who might be scared. My body, my choice. I am not scared, and I just want to be a normal kid again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Annabelle. Linda?
Good evening. My name is Linda Murphy, and I have 2 children at Country Oaks. First of all, I want to thank you for your time and your service to our district and getting our children back to school. I also want to say thank you for the summer academy. My children loved it. They wanted to go. They wanted to continue going. They only went for 1 session. That's what worked best for us. But I wanted to thank you for putting that together for us. I'm not going to speak about data. Others have covered that. I'm going to speak from the heart. I had a hard time deciding, should I do that? Because I'm talking about my children and telling their story. So I thank you for listening. I'm not anti-mask. I'm not anti-vaccine. I support choice. And I do not want my children in masks in school. They came home groggy, foggy, and just exhausted than ever before. We started picking them up from school just to end their masking sooner. As a working parent, that meant me having to work later in the evening to get my time in, but it was worth it for their well-being. They would breathe a sigh of relief just to take the mask off. In fact, one of my children said that they go to the bathroom just to get fresh air. Think about that. Their coping strategy was to go to the bathroom to get some fresh air. I encourage you to go to the bathroom tonight to get some fresh air, folks. Have you ever looked to see how dirty their masks are at the end of the day? Those masks fall on the floor, get set on tables. Some are shoved in coat packets and then fall on the ground. That is disgusting and not hygienic at all. You can see snot on them. They've got tears. I'm crying. There's snot in your mask. That is truly disgusting. Prior to masking in school, my oldest child did not forget to bring home materials and was able to articulate the teacher's instructions to me regarding assignments. For the 2020 school year, I found my daughter confused and not understanding instruction like years before. I wondered, is this an age and grade thing? You know, as the saying goes, ages and stages. My frustration grew with the notion that she was not paying attention or possibly goofing off. I scheduled a call with our teacher. The teacher confirmed my child is paying attention and is a leader among her peers. This was not my child's fault or the teacher's fault. She simply could not hear and understand through the masks, and she was too embarrassed to keep raising her hand to say she didn't hear. Who wants to be that person who doesn't get it? Eventually, she would just let it go because she didn't want to keep asking questions, and I really need to hurry. So let's see here. Thankfully, my husband and I had the time to spend with her to make sure she was getting what she needed. I also want to say I have a fair amount of family members that are deaf. Some of those family members read lips to understand what we are saying. In order for my children to understand them, my children listen to what they are saying and read their lips. My children rely on reading lips to understand what is being said, perhaps more than others because that's what they're accustomed to communicate with their family. Masks hindered their ability to learn and both missed out on valuable education that I cannot replace. I just want to say my children have a right to hear a teacher and understand, and they should be able to run around like crazy in gym without being out of breath. And I'll just stop there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. All right, Rachel, you're next, but while you're coming, I'm gonna introduce the other folks to come down. Sheila Rossetti, Dave Thiessen, Katie Giannopoulos, and Madison Thompson. And that will conclude our public comment for the evening. So Rachel, thank you.
Thank you for listening to me, but I'm short on time, so I'm going to get right to it. We keep hearing about how the science shows that masks are effective and that they do not cause harm. I disagree with that. There is no actual scientific studies that show that masks are effective at stopping the spread of COVID. I have searched for them because I like facts and data. The best I could find was as follows. The FDA states that masks may help in stopping the spread, but cite no studies. The report the CDC uses to support mask efficacy even states that data regarding the real-world effectiveness of community masking are limited to observation and epidemiological studies. What I found, this is the one that was cited through the CDC. It states that this was not a randomized clinical study. The authors note that the other community-wide and hospital-specific interventions may have contributed to the observation, and that they're basing their findings in the absence of actual laboratory studies. That's from the CDC. This one I have right here actually says, here is the science behind how face masks prevent coronavirus. If you get through all the fluff, there's a study referenced here that found that respiratory droplets were blocked when the mouth was covered by a damp washcloth. We're not sending our kids walking around in damp washcloths to school, so this is irrelevant. It says the strongest evidence is in favor of masks come from observations. This one right here is an evidence review. If you jump to where mask efficacy studies, it says, although no randomized controlled trials on the use of masks have been published, a number of studies have attempted to indirectly estimate the efficacy of masks. Science is not based on indirect estimates. There's nothing that shows that they work. This science that so many are using to force a mask mandate is nothing more than a hypothetical analysis based on observations of scenarios with multiple variables. What I did find during my search for information is numerous studies that prove not only are masks ineffective at stopping COVID, but they are also detrimental to our kids, both mentally and physically. The article right here, published this month, highlighted 13 randomized controlled trials testing the effectiveness of masks and found little to no evidence of their effectiveness and some evidence that they might even actually increase the transmission. And they spoke about kids constantly touching their masks. The article here discusses a clinical study that was done comparing viral transmission from COVID positive patients, both with a mask and without a mask, and found that there was no difference in viral transmission. The article then goes on to explain the potential harms and risks of mask wearing. The article concludes, I'm not going to have enough time, just the harmful risks, everything that our kids are facing, the psychological and mental. I have a 42-page study I'd like to leave with you guys to actually read. These are the studies. This is the science, and this is going to show the mental, the physical effects that these kids are having from these masks. I encourage you, if you truly care about our kids, to read this. I'll leave it for you.
Thank you, Rachel. If you want to just leave it on the stage there, and we will get that information. Thank you. Sheila. Sorry, Dave, you're next.
Hello, my name is Sheila, and I have two students in Huron Valley. And my youngest daughter is going into the 4th grade at Country Oaks. And I really had a very hard time with her last year with wearing the mask. And one of the things that she had to do was wear the mask for her entire recess, the entire time she was in school. And I would like to also thank you for making school in person last year, because it helped her so much. The other point about the recess mask wearing is that she was also not allowed to visit her friends from her 2nd grade year after that was cut short. She was segregated. She could only be with her classroom, not visiting her friends from 2nd grade. And we're trying to build these kids up to socialize them. There is no way that they should be separated by classroom. Have all the 3rd graders together on the playground, please. It made her very depressed that she was separated from her good friends from 2nd grade after they had gone through the March 2020 closing of the school because of COVID. So the point is that she had no opportunity to reconnect with those same kids that she had gone through that traumatic experience with. When she was physically in person with them, she was still separated. Being on the recess wearing a mask just doesn't make sense to me. They are outdoors. They need to run. They need to get their exercise. She said that she couldn't go on different apparatus on the playground. She had to stay in one apparatus, and therefore she was extremely bored with that apparatus, and she would go sit down on the sidewalk during recess. She would come home every single day with a headache from wearing her mask all day, because she was only given 2 15-minute breaks from wearing her mask for 7 hours. I would have to nurse her back to health and beg her to try to do her homework. You have no idea how hard it is to get a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old to try to recuperate from a headache. She just doesn't have the energy in her. I beg you, keep the mask a choice for the parents. It is our children. It is our choice. Please keep this our choice. Please do not mandate masks again. Okay.
Thank you, Sheila. Dave?
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of the board members for serving the community, for starters. And I know there's a lot of emotion, and I have 4 grandchildren in the system. And I just wanted to point out something that the CDC agrees with, which is the masks cannot stop the size of the molecule that is the virus, which is 1.25 microns, or put another way, a micron is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. If you happen to have, most of you are wearing masks, an N95, it will stop something as small as 0.3 microns. In other words, 3 molecules could get through the space you've got that appears to be protecting you. So the study from South Peninsula Hospital in Alaska is supported by the CDC, and the CDC, while waffling one way or the other on the mask, current position is wear the masks even though we don't have any data to support it. In fact, we have data to support they don't work. Now, I would love to see, and I'm sure I'm not now, is not the time, but if you have any data at all to support wearing the mask, that's not simply an edict from the CDC, not based on any data, if that's it, you've got nothing. But I will be more than happy to leave my email or just post it on Facebook would be just fine. If anyone can come up with one piece of data, particularly peer-reviewed data, like the South Peninsula Hospital, if you can come up with anything, let's have another meeting and go over some data. Thanks again for your service.
Thank you, Dave. Katie?
Hello, everyone. I know that this has been very long, but I really hope that I can get all of your attention because these are parents speaking, but I am a student. I am the one who has gone through this. I had my freshman year cut off. I was suffering sophomore year, and not only am I a student, but I am a kid. I am a child, and I would have panic attacks every day in school because of these masks. And I'm not here to give you statistics. I'm not here to give you facts to debunk. I am sharing my personal experience with this because I have gone through this. I have suffered. I have seen every aspect. I would have to come home sometimes from school. My mom would have to pick me up because I'm so sick. There were times I couldn't go to school, and I am a 4.3 GPA student. I volunteer when I can. I am my top of my class. I am part of 3 clubs. I'm the founder of a club. I want to do good for the school, but it's hard when I am struggling so much with these masks. I respect everybody's choice, but if I have that choice, I would like to not struggle with that and be able to serve my community and serve the school because I have plans for the future. I have so many things. I have my classes laid out, and if I have to wear a mask next year, I'm going to have to move schools. And not only are my test grades good for the school, but I like my Huron Valley school. I'm going into my junior year. I love it. I have all of my classes planned out for the next year, my senior year, and I already have colleges planned. I write college applications this year, and I do not want to have to switch schools. I do not want to have to rearrange all of my plans because I don't have a choice. It is so hard. I know so many kids who are struggling greatly with this. I have friends, I have acquaintances, I even have quote unquote enemies that have the same struggles as I do. It has affected my mental health greatly. I wouldn't smile at school. I wouldn't see others. I would have no facial expressions and I would be isolated. It would be hard, and it was hard to come home every day after that. My health issues, they were awful. And it is so hard to keep up a smile and keep up good grades and everything that I can when I'm struggling with this so much. And at the end of the day, you as a school board have to realize, can you pick your students and their health and their mental well-being over politics and mandates? Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Madison.
Hi, my name is Madison Thompson, and I'm going to my sophomore year at Lakeland High School. I think that masks should be an option for students and staff this year. Being a student last year was completely awful because we were forced to wear a mask. People who were doing the virtual academy last year and plan to do it again should not have a say whether the kids in school should wear a mask. They did not experience sitting in a mask all day for 6 hours straight, being suffocated and not being able to breathe. If you don't feel comfortable sending your kid to school, keep your kid online. That's why we have the option to stay home. This is a free country, and I should be able to have a say whether I wear a mask or not. What is the difference of walking outside to stores to my friend's house without a mask than going to school without a mask? 2 years ago, if someone saw a kid wearing a mask, you'd probably call 911 for child abuse. How is this any different? Putting kids in masks is completely dangerous, especially during sports. It is proven that the virus does not affect kids, so why should we kids have to wear a mask for something that does not affect us? Masks were giving me a headache every day because of the heat and the feeling of not being able to breathe. Masks can cause infections from bacteria, which can lead to health issues much worse than COVID. I usually like going to school, seeing my teachers, my friends, and learning, but having to wear a mask ruined school for me. I really want to have a good experience in school this year, but I am terrified that I will be forced to wear a mask against my will. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Oh, excuse me. I think that was Madison. Okay, well, I thank the community. There was 26 public comments that we made our way through. I appreciate that. Our job here on the board is just like we suggest in our elementary buildings of the 7 habits from Stephen Covey, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So I appreciate everyone sharing their public comments with us this evening. Without objection, we are going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Can the Sergeant at Arms please escort our board members back to their seat? It's you, Jeffrey Van Gotham. The regular board meeting of August 16th, 2021 is back in order. We will be addressing item section 8, reports from board committees, standing committees, executive committees. So I do want to, before we get into each of the reports from the executive committee, I'd ask you to work with your superintendent or your central office administration team, whoever is the lead for your committee. What I would like to do after these meetings is make sure that we're submitting our reports to officially to Ms. Cotter, the secretary, but also to Lori Hill, so that we can post that as part of the agenda so that the community members can see those board notes from the committee. So we do reports out. Of course, we tape the sessions and people can go back and see, but I would like those reports to be added as well. Let me, the first committee up is the executive committee, and the executive committee is chaired by myself. In attendance, do I have this right? Let me see. Excuse me. Right here. There it is. All right. Executive committee met on August 9th at 8 a.m. at the administration building. In attendance was myself, Mr. Weissman. Strike the board notes here. That's Denise Forrest, not Denise Pastana. Denise Forrest was in attendance. Relisha and Kim Rutt were also in attendance. The agenda items that we discussed were Title IX policies. There's some updates that we received from our legal counsel in regards to new federal laws dealing with Title IX policies. We heard a presentation from Ms. Payne regarding recent changes in the Title IX protocols, and she shared recommended changes in board policy and administrative procedures. We also received a briefing from Mrs. Root in regards to non-homestead timeline. We walked through the committee the timeline events to the next 15 weeks regarding the informational campaign that will take place in regards to the non-homestead millage that will be on the ballot this November. We received a budget update. Dr. Salah was playing the role of Jeffrey Van Gotham and shared a brief update regarding ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 dollars. We also had the discussion on ARPA funds and developing a board process for allocation of funding that has been received. We discussed the August 16th regular board meeting agenda, which has been presented to the community this evening as they entered this meeting. We discussed there is an attendance out there for a board dialogue. So I might have to negotiate with a couple of board members to see if they would change their attendance to different days. So if you receive a call, please answer it. And then opening day, the committee reviewed a draft agenda for the opening day for Huron Valley Schools. We also talked about board policy 8350. There was some discussion by board member Long about potentially moving from 12 to 11 p.m. at midnight. We're still having discussions on that, so we'll be happy to fill you in there. And then the Oakland County School Board Association has resolutions and proposed amendments to bylaws. Each school district is required to review these. These have been sent to you. They are on the agenda for this evening. So that concludes the notes related to the board agenda, and we will receive and file that for reference for the community. Thank you. TLT committee.
Sure.
Ms. Dodd.
Yep. The TLT committee met on August 6th at 10 a.m. at the Huron Valley Schools Administration Building. A meeting called to order at 10:06. Present: Laura Dodd, Lindsay Cotter, Denise Pastana, John Trevernier, Dr. Sala, Jennifer Bjorkman, Martin Lindberg, and Lena Namath. There were no public comments. Our regular agenda items, first agenda item was an HVVA update. Mr. Trevernier shared a few updates regarding HVVA for the upcoming school year. The district will be following the distance learning criteria for pupil accounting standards, which requires 5 days per week of synchronous instruction. Additionally, the HVVA has been recognized by MDE as a separate entity, allowing students to be enrolled in the building and for graduating seniors to receive a diploma from the Huron Valley Virtual Academy. Second agenda item, 21-22 professional learning calendar. The TLT department has developed a professional learning calendar for the 21-22 school year, which was shared. C, technology updates. The committee reviewed updates on several technology projects that are ongoing as part of the 2020 bond work. The committee also reviewed updates to Administrative Procedures 6175 AP to include the specific language for the issuance of Chromebooks to students in grades 6 through 12. We had no other. We did have other. Sorry, a consent agenda item. Our items that are on the agenda tonight, we discussed the Micro Focus software license renewal. The district uses Micro Focus networking products to run and manage the district's extensive computer network and critical functions such as user management, software delivery, and hardware inventory. Renewal of these licenses is up for the next 12-month term, August 1, 2021 through July 30, 22. The TLT committee approved this exhibit to appear on the August 16th, 2021 consent agenda. And then we adjourned the meeting at 11:09 a.m. Our next meeting is August 20th, 2021, and I think we decided at 10:30. These notes reflect 10 o'clock, but we're going to do 10:30 at the Huron Valley Schools Administration Building.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. We will receive and file that report for public review. Finance and Operations Committee, Ms. Pastana.
Yes, Finance and Operations have actually met 2 times since our last meeting. So the first minutes are from Wednesday, July 28th. The meeting started at 4:04. It was in the administration building. Present were myself, Mr. Long, Mr. Wiseman, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gotham, Mr. Reeby, Ms. Maruskin, Ms. Timberlake, Mr. Rogers, Mr. Alcera, and Mr. Weinwick. There was no public comment. We talked about the contingency review of the bond construction projects. Becky from Clark Construction shared that in her opinion, this has been the most challenging year in construction. She reviewed some of the major challenges that unfolded once demo took place within the elementary schools and Lakeland's concession area. Bill from TMP spoke of the unseen changes and emissions discovered at all construction sites, and they're actually offering us a rebate for some future projects. Documentation on construction papers moving forward will be the key to avoiding these unforeseen findings and are being implemented immediately. These will help prove helpful when the Bid Pack 5 takes place at our sister schools. We will be asking the board to approve a contingency increase from 7 to 10% at the board meeting tonight. We talked about the White Lake Township water line service agreement. Jeffrey discussed that along with the assistance of legal. We were able to reach an agreement on the service of our soon-to-be constructed water line that will service water to the Bogey Lake campus. The group discussed the agreement and the need to have approved to meet the DWRF timeline for securing a loan interest loan. We are asking the board to take action, a special board meeting in the next couple days that happen. HVVS wage discussion. We talked about the challenges, not only at our district, but state and national, finding good bus drivers. And we talked about increasing the scale to seek new drivers, and that was discussed at the special board meeting. Future discussion items. At that point, we wanted to talk about the rebate provided by our cooperative. And our meeting was adjourned at 5:45. Next meeting being August 11th at 4. The Finance and Operations met on August 11th. We started the meeting at 4:12 at the administration building. Present were myself, Mr. Long, Mr. Wiseman, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gotham, Mr. Tavernier, Mr. Reeby, Ms. Kerrigan, and Ms. Maruskin. There was no public comment. On the regular agenda, we talked about the consent agenda items, which will appear on tonight's consent agenda. The purchase for cooperative bids, the road salt purchase, the bread purchases, milk purchases, food service pizza bid, food service purchases. Under that is the Van Erden Distribution Group, the Gordon Food Service, and Oliver Packaging. Mr. Tavernier discussed the Ingenuity license and is recommending the board approve the purchase of 150 concurrent user licenses in the amount of $82,500. Funds for this purchase are allocated in the Teaching Learning Technology General Fund. And under unfinished business, we went back and discussed the approval of the increased contingency for bid pack 4. And we are asking that the 7% contingency be changed to 12% contingency as opposed to the 10 that I read to you in the last minutes. And this project continues to be funded from the 2020 Capital Projects Bond Fund. There was no new business. We discussed about the Max Service Corp rebate summary. Jeffrey spoke of the anticipated refunds coming to the district. We talked about upcoming projects, and it was requested to get a list of the employees that were provided through our district through MAC. We discussed future meeting dates. We are going to have meeting times that start at either 10 a.m. or 2:30, depending on the day of the month, adjusting as needed with committee members' schedules. That'll be updated on the with the board at the website. Jeffrey gave a budget update, which was compared to 2 months ago. We talked about bond project tracking. Jeffrey shared Clark's Construction's spreadsheet tracker. The committee asked for the next spreadsheet to include the following: contract price, change orders, how much was spent, and how much money is left. We'd like a summary of what the contingency changes that take place so there's no surprises. We talked about the calculator bid update, discussion back in June as reported in the TLT committee. Mac Corp Services has come in with a $2 calculator cost savings, and that will be brought in at an upcoming meeting. And we need to confirm with Chuck that it's inclusive of the teacher resource package as requested. Future discussion items, we are going to put together another tour of the bond work when we're closer to being done. And Jeff Long wanted to discuss bringing back the Board of Education scholarships at each of the high schools. Our next meeting is September 8th at 10 a.m., meeting adjourned at 5:45.
All right, we will receive and file that report so that it can be disseminated to the public. I did want to ask a question, though. The items A4 on the consent agenda through A11, I've heard you make reference in your report. Was there consensus by the 3 members in attendance on these items?
There was, Mr. Carlson.
All right, thank you. Okay, Communications, Marketing, and Legislative Committee, Mr. Long.
The Communications, Marketing, and Legislative Committee met on Friday, August 6th at 8:30 a.m. at the Administration Building. In attendance were myself, Lindsay Cotter, Laura Dodd, Dr. Salah, Relisha Glover-Payne, Kim Root, and Laura Colvin. There was no public comment. We have a legislative update from Dr. Salah, who provided a brief update. and information regarding the new foundation allowance, equalization dollars in the transportation categorical. Mrs. Root shared with us the timeline for the non-homestead millage renewal campaign. She outlined the strategies and tactics that will be implemented for the informational campaign leading up to the November 2nd election. Mrs. Dodd discussed the need to have an advocacy committee on standby. We got a marketing update from Mrs. Root regarding the district's marketing campaign, including Google Analytics from the district website. More information regarding the number of impressions and the reach of the campaign will be shared at our next meeting. We were updated on the website rebuild. A preview of the new design of the website was shared with committee members. Ms. Root outlined the process that is taking place to allow the launch of the website and an HVS app on October 31st. Ms. Root also discussed intentions for back-to-school communications and events being shared by HVS. The goal is to return to as many normal activities as possible. Our meeting was adjourned at 9:50 a.m. Our next meeting, which was previously scheduled for Friday, September 3rd, was rescheduled for Friday, September 10th. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Long. We will receive and file these reports so that the information can be disseminated to the public as well. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
a quick question. Can we ask questions about the committee reports still?
Yes, yes.
I would like an update on the executive committee's discussion about policy 8350.
Okay. I will ask the other board members to take a look at that as well. The feeling or original discussion with that, and we also wanted to make sure that we got with you as well to understand the motivation of asking that to be moved from 12 to 11. In part, we think the genesis from that, but we needed to clarify with you, was the fact that we moved board meetings from 7 to 6. So that was one of the reasons that we wanted to understand better your thinking behind amending that policy.
Yeah, that was part of my motivation, the genesis of moving our meetings up to 6 o'clock. I don't think a board can be effective if they've already been sitting here for 6 hours and trying to start new business after midnight. Not to mention, I don't think it really respects our public. If we're asking them to go into the middle of the night and into the next morning when we're trying to decide issues for them. So that was my reasoning for that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that,
Thank you.
that clarification. And just so that we don't have, in the interest of informing the public, I'm just looking at 8350 here just briefly so that there's just clarity around this. Transaction of all business at official board meetings. Number 3 says no items of business may be introduced after 12 midnight without a motion passed by the board to waive this policy. So to Mr. Long's point here, he's saying since we've moved it from 7 to 6, that we would move the 12 to 11, saying the effectiveness of taking a vote after 11. We'll discuss that more and then bring that back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to the Arts, Athletics, and Activities Ad Hoc Committee. Ms. Forrest.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. A lot of papers here. First of all, I'm really excited to be chairing this committee as a retired art teacher, but still an artist. I do believe that the extracurriculars, both during the school day and outside of the school day, are integral to the well-being of our students, whether they excel in arts, theater, sports, or not. You know, it's great to be exposed to these activities. So we had our first meeting on August 10th at 4 p.m. Meeting was called to order at 4:11 p.m. Present were myself as chair, Mr. Carlson, Ms. Dodd, Mr. Tavernier, who's our liaison, and Dr. Salah. So we discussed the 2021-22 committee goals, and the committee discussed several opportunities to support the arts, athletics, and activities across the district to ensure students are connected to their school and community. As I just said, This encompasses a lot of activities, both within the school day and outside of the school day. So we discussed many ways to get this off the ground. And our next steps that is at Teaching, Learning, and Technology, or TLT, will be developing community surveys to gather feedback, which the committee will review at our next meeting. And we thought that'd be a good place to start, to see what our community and also our students are thinking about when they think about the arts and activities and sports. So future meetings, we will meet as needed during the school year. I suspect that we will meet more often as we work through how to best handle this committee and the outreach that will be involved in it. So our next meeting is September 15th at 4:00 p.m. and we'll just continue where we left off. Thank you.
Thank you.
We adjourned at 5:24 p.m.
Okay, thank you. We will file and receive the report and disseminate that information to the community. Thank you. All right, we are now moving to item number 9, the consent agenda. Before I get a motion to move those items, I'd like to get a clarification from the superintendent on an item.
Thank you, President Carlson. Just a point of clarification. During my superintendent comments, I referenced 3 contracts. One is a successor agreement for the HVEA. The second is the HVESP contract, which is our secretary group. And the third is the AFSCME contract, which is actually our custodial maintenance. And I, in error, said transportation, thinking back to the special meeting. The bargaining committee is still working through the finalizing the language of the transportation contract. So that will be brought hopefully to the board at the next regular board meeting. So we're asking for approval of custodial maintenance, secretaries, and the successor agreement, all of which was included in your board packet.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Is there a motion to approve these items, A1 through A14?
So moved.
Mr. Long has moved the item. Is there support?
Support.
Support was by Ms. Pastana. All right. We will go ahead and take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mr. Long
Yes.
and Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't get you, Mrs. Pastana.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
7 have voted in the affirmative. The motion passes. We'll now move to unfinished business, approval of the increased contingency BP4, which stands for Bid Pack 4. I will turn it over to Jeffrey Van Gotham.
Thank you, President Carlson. So the Finance and Operation Committee over several meetings discussed the need to increase our contingency as it related to some of the work being done this summer. As the community and board recalls, we were going to spend between $28 and $30 million over 4 buildings, as well as an additional parking lot here at Milford High School and a concession stand at Lakeland High School. As we were beginning our demolition work and really our site work as it involves with, basically digging up old spaces, it was determined, that there was some additional work that needed to be done even to get through the demolition stage. So with that being said, we asked the committee to consider an increase in our contingency from the 7% to 12%, which would take us from a total of $1.773 million to $3.03 million, an increase of about $1.3 million. The committee was unanimous in support of that increased contingency. And as we go forward with some of these older buildings that really haven't had the TLC from a construction standpoint in over 20 years, we feel that that'll better state what we need to be able to get the work done in that short time period in the summertime for the next several summers. So before you this evening, we have the ask of increasing that contingency from 7% to 12%. We do have our team here, including Mr. Reby, our Director of Capital Projects, and representatives from both Clark Construction as well as TMP.
Thank you for that update. Before we move any further with clarifying questions or inquiries, do I have a motion to move approval of this item? Mr. Wiseman.
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve the increased contingency for bid pack 4 as presented.
Do I have support?
I'll support that.
Ms. Forrest supports that. We'll now take the time for any questions or inquiries to Mr. Van Gotham or our construction team that's here tonight. Mr. Weissman.
Yes, a point of clarification, you had mentioned because it was renovation, there were obviously, any type of renovation, there's unforeseen circumstances, things that become uncovered during that construction. But I think it's also important to note that we did take advantage of that construction and do some of the increase in contingency was because we chose as a district to expand the scope of some of the work.
That is correct. So as we were going through some of these things, you know, small items add up to large dollars when you do numerous changes. So, excuse me, yeah, we took advantage of being in these buildings and working on them throughout the summer. So while we were in there, some things we were able to do to really improve the overall efficiency of our buildings as well as the utilization of those spaces, we were trying to take advantage of that. So there's some increased scope in that ask for the increase in contingency.
Are there any other questions? And I'm looking at the Finance and Operations Chair. This was debated at length.
At length.
Okay.
And we had much discussion about it, but
and full support
full support from the whole committee. Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none from the board members, we will now move forward with a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd.
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, our next item is new business. We are going to ask for agreement tonight on this new business for support. So I do need a motion on the Oakland County School Board Association proposed bylaws and resolution. Ms. Forrest.
I'll make the motion to support the Oakland County School Board Association's updated bylaws.
They're pretty perfunctory. I don't see anything in there. Mr. Wiseman?
I'll second it. Yes, I agree. I've had an opportunity to review them along with the rest of the board, and it really, the changes are really within the bylaws as it pertains to the organization itself, pertaining to membership and the election of board of directors. And I second that motion.
Okay. Are there any other questions and comments? Mr. Long?
I actually have a concern about supporting the proposed bylaws of the Oakland County School Board.
Okay.
If you look on page 51 of our board packet, they've added a new section under general about the board of directors. It reads, unless otherwise stated within this article, the presence of 25% of the appointed representatives to a committee will constitute a quorum, and each appointed representative present in the meeting shall have one vote. I can't be in favor of a quorum being 25% when Robert's Rules of Orders clearly states a quorum should consist of as large as can be depended upon for being present at all meetings when the weather is not exceptionally bad. If Oakland County is setting their standards for 25% attendance at their committee meetings, I'm not going to support that.
Okay, thank you. Would you like more clarification on this? For the rationale of why they're saying 25%. My guess is that they're having a hard time with attendance, but I don't want to assume on this matter. So that may cut to the point that you're talking about of that can be reasonably necessary, but
yeah, some further clarification would be helpful. I just can't see how setting the expectation so low is productive.
Okay, and then what's the time frame on this, Mr. Weissman, in regards to?
They've requested that the Board of Education approve the attached bylaws and resolution. The completed and signed ballots must be returned no later than 5 p.m. on Friday, September 10th. Our next board meeting is September 13th.
September 13th. Okay. We do not have another scheduled meeting. Well, I will And what happens if we don't act on this?
I would assume that the rest of the various boards throughout the county will go ahead and vote on it. If the majority of the Oakland County school boards endorse this, it would go into effect.
Okay. Ms. Forrest.
Sure. Just one comment. I know in all the in the big packet, there are contingencies though for board members. If they cannot make a meeting, then they can appoint a surrogate to attend the meeting and to take a vote for that specific board meeting. So I think they're trying to allow for folks to be present there by doing that. I don't know if that helps, Jeff, or not.
Ms. Dodd.
I mean, I would think they should include one or the other, not both. It seems sort of like we're trying to solve the problem like 3 different ways rather than trying to find a way to get people to participate or to get votes in the chairs versus saying that it's okay if we don't have enough people there. On our committees, if we said 25% was okay, that would be one of us. And I don't find that to be appropriate. I think one person at a committee meeting shouldn't be able to drive things through.
It's pretty efficient though.
Pretty efficient. I don't know. I argue with myself a lot. So yeah.
All right. I agree. Do we have the right to make an amendment? Because we certainly could and vote on it with the amendment and send it over. And
A point of clarification. I guess it's interesting because I've never experienced where if something is brought forth by committee is a recommendation, but it requires the Oakland County school districts at their monthly meeting to actually approve this. So I'm just wondering if this is a committee situation as it relates to a recommendation that then requires the rest of the school districts to approve this.
Well, I'd like to discharge this matter, given other things in front of us. So I am open to passing an amendment. That way we can support all the other activities, or we can make a motion and then declare our opposition and leave that section out, or make an amendment to what they have and ask them to entertain that. I would look to Mr. Long and how he may want to proceed.
So if you go through, and again, it's on page 61 of our packet as far as the amendment to the bylaws, there's only 2 choices. The board approves all bylaws amended as presented, or the board does not approve all bylaws.
All right, well, there's a motion. There's a motion on the table to approve. If any desire to withdraw that motion, otherwise we're going to move forward with the motion. Okay, there's no desire to withdraw, so we will take a roll call vote. Ms. Cotter.
Thank you. Mrs. Forrest.
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd.
No.
Mrs. Pastana.
No.
Okay. Mr. Long.
No.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Carlson.
No.
Motion does not pass.
So we will pass our recommendations back to OCSBA and let them know that that failed at 4-3. If they're willing to entertain and help us understand those objections, we could entertain a special meeting for this to come back together. Otherwise, the motion fails. All right, we will now move to Title IX policy. And I believe Alicia Over is going to give us a brief update.
Thank you, President Carlson. And to the rest of the board. I am wanting to do an overview of the new policy as it relates to Title IX. There have been changes to some of the provisions as it relates to Title IX in the education setting. And what we needed to do is to make sure that the board policy aligned with the changes that are required by the provision changes of the Department of Education. When I presented to the executive committee, I just had given a brief overview of what Title IX is. And basically what it states in short is we want an educational environment free from sex-based harassment and also discrimination. As it relates to the specific law, it says that no person shall on the basis of sex be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So now that we have that definition, historically, when we've talked about in the education setting of Title IX, we have thought about sports. When I can think even going back 18 years when we said there is a violation, it's typically if there is not a sport offered to a specific gender, then there were claims filed. Going further or more recent, we have sex discrimination, which falls under the Title IX. And for today's context, we're looking at the LGBTQ students and sexual violence assault on campus. So when we think about Title IX, these are areas that we look for and claims can be filed. And we have to do our due diligence with investigating any claims brought forward. Sex discrimination includes sexual violence, gender-based harassment in schools or school-related activities. And these protections as it relates to Title IX is extended to all academic, educational, extracurricular, athletic, and other programs of a school district. And this is not just specific to one gender. This applies and protects both male and female students and faculty and staff against sexual harassment. What we needed to do with the new provisions is to make sure that whenever there is an occurrence of sexual harassment or if there is a claim filed, that the district has to actually investigate any occurrences and take immediate action. We have to appoint a Title IX coordinator. We have to develop and publish district-wide policies and procedures that is consistent with the provisions that have been changed and provided to us. We need to train our employees. We need to train students, create a climate that encourages reporting and investigate claims. And so I want to go back up and really really clarify the trained students, because in several documents they have trained students. And it's not going to be our job to train our students, but based on the information that I receive from our attorneys, it's just making sure that information related to Title IX is posted on websites, documents knowing who the coordinator is. So I just want to clarify that what we must have, training. We're not going to train our kids on that. We really will depend on parents to be aware of what protocol is. And if there is any violation or if there's discrimination or sexual harassment, then we will rely on parents to file those claims and become familiar with what protocol is. But the reason why we are here today is to make sure that we develop and publish district-wide policies and procedures. We've had procedures or district-wide policies in place in the board policy that we just needed to make some revisions to. But what we also needed to do is to make sure that we have a procedure, administrative procedure in place that aligns with the provisions being made. So we've done that. We've had our attorneys to vet the information that we have, and we're wanting to implement that. So questions to ask: who is the district's Title IX coordinator? Typically in the past, with the old law or old provisions, it has typically been the human resource director or chief human resources director that have taken in the claims and conducted an investigation and basically rendered a decision on the complaint that's been filed. With the new provisions, we have to take a more impartial approach. I serve as the coordinator, Title IX coordinator. I take the information when a complaint is filed. I then assign an investigator, who is right now the HR supervisor, who conducts the investigation. They do the research as far as what's listed on the complaint. And then the information that is collected, it is then sent to the superintendent to make a decision on what the findings are or were when a complaint is filed. Important questions to ask, and this is why we're here today and why this is on the agenda. Do we have a Title IX policy prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sex? And so, yes, we've had one, and we have an improved one, new and improved one, with some minor provisions that were made. Do we have a procedure for the Title IX reporting and investigation? And so, yes, we do have that now going forward, and it will be posted on our website as well. Some key things to remember as it relates to Title IX is there are changes in vocabulary. So when we have someone who has filed a complaint, that student or staff member is considered as the complainant. And if there is a complaint made against another person, that is the respondent. So we have had to become familiar with the new terminology as it relates to Title IX. Title IX coordinator is Relisha Glover Payne. Training for everyone. We've begun the process of training our leadership management team members. And so they are familiar. We went through a 3-hour training December of 2020. And so they are familiar with what to look for if there is a complaint being made. I've encouraged our staff, and even during the training, we need to take every complaint that's made seriously. And bring it forward so we can do a complete and thorough investigation. Single investigator model no longer works. And as I mentioned before, I am the coordinator, we have an investigator, and then there is the person that makes the decision based on the facts that have been presented. Anyone who is or who have witnessed discrimination or harassment, they have to be interviewed during the investigation process. Any records that are taken or any notes specific to the investigation, they have to remain on file with the district for 7 years. And develop a grievance procedure. Grievance procedure as it relates to Title IX is basically the administrative procedure that's going to be used in order to investigate a complaint that's made. And there also has to be provisions made for an appeals process. So if the decision that is rendered is not acceptable to the complainant, there is a process that the complainant will need to follow in order to file an appeal. So that concludes my summary of the Title IX. I've provided information in the board notes as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments, Mr. Long? And then Mrs. Dunn.
Ms. Glover Payne, can you explain to me the appeal process?
The appeal process is that once they have 15 days to make an appeal to the district as it relates to the decision that's been made. There are documents for each step in the process. There are documents that we would have to fill out, and also the complainant would have to fill out.
And who would decide the appeal?
It would have to go to the board.
The Board of
Or
Education?
it would have to go to the board, and they would have to you would have to designate who would make the decision. And as it reads in what I've seen in the documents and even the legal opinion, it would fall to the board president in making that decision.
Mr. President, if we were in the unfortunate circumstance to have to hear an appeal, do we know who we would have as the decider in an appeal currently?
The decider in the appeal. Do you know that, Superintendent? Because I do not.
So what I'm hearing Ms. Glover Payne say is, according to legal counsel, that decision is something that would need to be discussed by the board. And that's part of the reason why we're bringing that here today, because we are required by law to adopt an updated policy as well as administrative procedure. We brought this to exec. It was in board notes, and that's a great question, Mr. Long, because that's part of the process. We would be asking the board to take action at the next meeting once we work through any unresolved questions that arise.
Okay. The reason for my question is I'm a little bit concerned. If we were run into a situation where a student was feeling discriminated against by a staff member and they didn't agree with the determination in district, that we would return their appeal to in district to make a final decision. I think this board should consider, if we go to an appeal, of maybe having some type of an independent party make the final determination if there's an appeal.
Okay. We'll bring that back to the executive committee.
Thank you.
Ms. Dodd, you had a question?
Yeah, I heard when we were talking about appeals are available, is that just for the complainant or also the respondent?
Thank you for asking that question. As I understand it right now, and I can check further, it is for the respondent, but I'm sorry, for the claimant, but I can certainly do some more research into that for you.
And then second question, what I heard you say is, as it relates to trained students, basically it's just make sure the students know where to find the Title IX coordinator. Is that right?
So what it is not necessarily for the students, but to make sure that families are aware of what the procedure is. And so they can find that information, that awareness information, through the board policy and administrative procedures that are listed there.
Got it. So we just want to make sure it's clearly published.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter?
Yes, thank you. Questions for Rulisha on this. So from my notes, I'm looking here. You will be the coordinator, and then you're also the compliance officer? I'm just trying to get a handle on some of the new language or vocabulary.
Yes, that is true. I would be both.
So if I came into your office and make a complaint, you said then you would be the coordinator, but then you would turn it over to an investigator. And who did you say would be our investigator in the building?
That would be Jeanette Winger. She is our HR supervisor.
And it's my understanding, at least from past or previous, most of this has to be handled confidentially, correct?
That is correct.
So when it comes to the board, or when it comes to the decision maker, so to speak, would they just, this is the incident, or would they have names involved in their deciding to make the decision?
They would have names. Even when it moves to the superintendent, he would have the names of those that are involved.
Okay. Years ago, when Title IX first came to our district, I remember the training we had. And back then, it wasn't agreed upon that you asked the boys to line up or the girls to line up. After that, we learned to integrate within the classroom. So after that, we started saying, if you have white tennis shoes on, you may line up. Or if you have Velcro on your shoes, you may line up. So we looked for all different things to get around Title IX and not pick on boys or girls. So it's come a long way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Glover Payne, for that update. And this will be back on the agenda, the next board meeting under unfinished business. We will take it back to the executive committee as well to address the concern that was expressed here tonight. So thank you. Public comments, non-agenda items. I have a Mr. Anthony Young, who high school bathrooms, water system updates, and test data. Is it on there?
Yes.
All right, go
Okay,
ahead.
here we go. Good evening, board. Thank you for your time. I had some things with my daughter. She was at Lakeland High School as a student. She also attended Lakewood and White Lake Middle School in this educational park off Bogey Lake Road. Water has been a huge concern at that park. The availability for fresh water has been horrible. The cleanliness of the bathrooms, disgusting. The availability to get into the restrooms in the high school, almost impossible. When we had the routing system that was going around the school, they had to go to the other side of the school to go to the bathroom, and they had to get to their classes to the other side and go down a certain staircase. These are concerns I have for the health and safety of our children. Food, water, and be able to get rid of the waste is a very important part. I went to the bathrooms in a few different bathrooms in our high schools or junior highs and elementary schools, and I was just discussing the cleanliness of the facilities, the lack of materials to wash your hands, which, as you see, COVID health department says, the importance of being able to wash your hands, be able to dry your hands. Poor, very poor in our district. I'd like to see these concerns raised to the board and also to see these concerns fixed before school starts, because we have all kinds of new students coming in. And if you ever go to a restaurant and your wife or your husband goes to the restaurant, goes to use the restroom, and it looks like a pigsty, or you can't wash your hands, you don't feel safe there, you walk out. You walk out. This is what a lot of our students are feeling in the high schools. They're feeling it in the middle schools too. When you're locking bathrooms, you go to use the bathroom. Oh, it's locked. Where do you got to go? You have to the other side of the school or to the front entrance because that's the only one open. Well, why? Why is that? You have a public event happens inside the cafeteria, or it used to be the Kiva when I went to Lakeland High School. Now it's the Center of Arts, whatever. And one bathroom's open and it doesn't have supplies in it. So you have parents coming in to see their students perform, and there's no supplies to wash your hands or dry your hands. And the cleanliness of the bathroom is disgusting. And health and safety concerns as we deal with the COVID stuff and the mask stuff, I think that'd be the first concern we have is be able to wash your hands, dry them, and be able to find a bathroom to go to the bathroom too. Be nice to have one that are unlocked in the high school bathrooms. And I think Dr. Slay, I think you asked the students about this. What are some problems and concerns you guys see? And I think they brought it up to you as bathrooms being a big concern and that you'd be able to use them. But thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anthony Young. Appreciate the comments. Okay, good and welfare. Any good and welfare? Ms. Pastana.
I have one. I know it's kind of late, but I just wanted to say the zombie prom was more than I expected it to be, and it was great. It was very impressive. The students were impressive. I know a lot of the board members got to go see it, but it was really, really good. And so I would just continue to say support the arts, support the athletics, support everything that's going on because they're doing really great things. So, and thank you to Miss Megan Weeks.
Thank you. Any other good and welfare on this side of the table? I'll now go over to here. Any good and welfare? Seeing none, we'll now move to item number 14, closed sessions. We are looking for a motion, but I just want to provide some clarity for the public on closed sessions. There are 10 items in which, under the Open Meetings Act, in which a public board can move to closed session. Most of those items, I believe it's 6 of those 10, call for a simple majority of the board to move to closed session. They have to deal with dismissal, suspension, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against, or to consider periodic personal evaluation of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, if the named person requests a closed hearing. Number 2, to consider the dismissal, suspension, or disciplining of a student if the public body is part of the school district, intermediate school district, or institution of higher education that the student is attending, and if the student or the student's parents or guardian requests a closed hearing. That is also a majority. C, for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing. That is what the motion is before us this evening. So I will am open to hearing a motion, and it calls for a simple majority to move to closed session. I just wanted to provide that.
I move that the Board of Education move to closed session for negotiation discussions.
All right, and supported by Mr. Wiseman. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana.
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, we will move to closed session.
Thank you.